Perfect. Hello friends, we are back today for part 2 of mini Katie. Big Katie also wants to be part of it, as expected. Little Katie's resting in her shelter right here. So let's go see if she'll hang out with us while we talk about her. All right, here we go. Little Katie, being so cute.
Hi, sister.
Now, you guys learned yesterday that she's been here for about 2 weeks, and she actually just lived a couple of miles down the road from me. So it was a really easy trip to get her from there to here. She was living with an 80-year-old woman who has had her for, I think she said, just over 10 years. Actually, I think she said she found her in a newspaper. Her and her companion, I didn't catch his name, but he actually died a couple of years ago. So she's been the only donkey at this lady's place, living in her front yard for the past 4 years. And so I went and met her, noticed some things right away that she needed some help with, and went back a few hours later and picked her up. And we have just fallen in love with her, as you saw in part 1. I mean, just right away. Can you say? Quick interjection here. Now, I want to clarify, and I realized this after when I was watching back the episode, that this was not the traditional rescue situation that you have seen or that you will see here on my channel, where I'm saving donkeys and horses from auctions or kill pens. It was really, really hard for little Katie's owner to let me have her. It was really emotional. There were tears. She's had this donkey for over 10 years and she loved her very, very, very much. So like I have said or will say, you know, what I'm showing you now was not done intentionally or maliciously, but this is also why education is really important when it comes to taking care of horses and donkeys especially. And she has 2 major issues that we're going to be addressing. One of them we've already started addressing within days of her arriving, and of course she's been here for a couple of weeks now, so it's not as apparent. But again, this donkey is in pretty rough shape, but not because her owner didn't love her or care about her. It just sort of happened accidentally, I guess I would say. All right, we're going to be changing positions a lot because I'm just going to move with them as we're going along. Now, problem number 1, the reason you're here today, there's 2 main ones we're going to talk about. The first one is that little Katie is the chubbiest donkey I have ever seen, and I'm going to show you up close in just a minute what I'm talking about and specifically what I'm looking at. I hate to say that about her when she's standing right here. I know, it's so rude, but girlfriend, it's kind of a problem. It really is. And she's extremely uncomfortable because of it. More often than not, people will literally feed their donkeys to death. That is not a dramatic statement. It's true. Donkeys will eat pretty much whatever you give them. The sugarier, the better. They love, love, love food. They're very social, and it's super fun to feed them. So when people have donkeys and they don't understand their digestive systems and how their bodies actually work, you can give them all kinds of cool stuff, and they're gonna love it and you're gonna love it. But ultimately, it can be really bad for them. But donkeys are desert animals, okay? So their bodies are not meant to process really high sugar, high fatty foods. They, like horses, will roam miles and miles and miles and miles and miles every day to forage for their food and to find water. Donkeys are meant to eat shrubs and tree bark and leaves and small amounts of grass that they find. That's okay. But we often, more often than not, people will throw them in pastures with horses, green, rich, luscious pastures, and of course they love it, but their bodies really aren't designed to process that kind of food. So let me tell you what this one was eating. Girlfriend was eating 10 Oreos for breakfast. By Oreos, I mean like the vanilla sandwich cookies that look like Oreos. A scoop of sweet feed, like high sugar molasses sweet feed. Straight alfalfa for hay, and she lived on a green pasture. Oh, she was eating Nutter Butters too. Forgot about that. Also Nutter Butters every single day for over 10 years. And she loved it. Of course she loved it. That's how she really bonded with her last owner. That's how her owner loved to feed her and spend time with her. And so I don't mean to say anything badly about anybody, because so often people just don't know what they're actually doing to their horse or to their donkey when they're feeding them high sugar stuff like that. And essentially, horses and donkeys, they don't even necessarily have to be fed cookies every day, but horses and donkeys that live on green pastures all the time and eat, high sugar grains and things like that, they essentially over time develop what's comparable to a type 2 diabetes in humans. Their symptoms will manifest in painful feet, inflammation in their hooves, and things like that. Hi, Leo. So now little Katie is on a diet, so to speak. No more sugar. She's not super happy about this. I definitely can kind of see it in her face that like when we come out to hang out with them or to feed them, she's kind of looking at each one of us individually like, okay, who is the cookie person supposed to be? Because you guys are really slacking at this point. But no more cookies. We're done with the cookies, so that we can try to rehab this girl. What should they eat? Well, you can read different blogs and articles to kind of form your own opinion. I would really love to be able to give mine barley straw, but I live on a very rural side of the Rocky Mountains, the western side of the Rocky Mountains, and I can't find a good consistent source here at this time. Oat straw is good for them, and you can also just do like a grass hay, but you don't want the grass hay that's freshly cut and lime green, right? You want it to age for a while and to lose some of that richness. Hi, sister. You're sweet girl. I do love you too. And little Katie also gets some supplements every day, like soaked beet pulp and different herbs to sort of help break up some of the fat pockets that I'm about to show you all over her body. One sign of obesity that is really easy to identify in both horses and donkeys is when you see this happening on their neck. This is really gnarly, like one of the gnarliest I've ever seen. This is a huge fat pocket that has accumulated on her neck and caused her mane. Will you show them from up top? So her mane should be here, right on top of her neck, and instead it's over there. So this is actually called a broken crest. This is all fat pockets that have accumulated here. There's a huge crease in here that should not be there, and that's from fat accumulation. There's actually a ligament that runs down their neck, and the weight becomes so much that it literally flops over. You can never unbreak, I don't know if that's right, grammatically correct. You can't fix that. Hopefully over time these fat pads will shrink, but her neck will probably always be flopped over like this. And a lot of people ask me if it hurts. From what I've read, it doesn't actually hurt them, but it can never be fully corrected. We've got chickens scratching inside the shelter now. So this is just one example of where she's got fat pads. This is actually Katie's shoulder right here. This is bone, right? This is her shoulder. This is where her body should be. But if you look closely, you can see huge divots and fat pads here, fat pad here. Her back, if you look maybe from the side, you can see is kind of caved in where it should be flat. And then back here, she's got a big round booty. This is all fat that ideally we will shrink over time. If you follow me around this way, pretty similar on this side of her body. Fat pads all through here along her side, all down here. And then, of course, this huge crease. The crease is risk for bacterial infection, so we need to keep this clean through here. And then this is all mounded up, more fat pads and accumulation that has happened over time. Of course, she's giving me the side eye like I'm being so rude right now, and I'm so sorry, but I really want you guys to have a good idea of how much weight this little donkey's actually carrying. And imagine how uncomfortable that is for her. Not only because they lay down for deep sleep, right? But they also like to roll. And when her back is caved in like this, rolling becomes really hard when she's this round and fluffy. That's really hard to do that. And here I am, one to talk. I'm out of breath, but just know that I'm 9 months pregnant in a few days, guys, so talking apparently is hard today. So really the best thing that we're gonna do for her at this point is really manage her diet and then also help increase her activity levels as much as we can. That's really all we can do, but it's just gonna be a really long process to get her looking and feeling optimally. Again, she's in her early 20s, so she's not super young. That's also not very old for a donkey. I've said before, donkeys can live to be well into their 40s, so she's not very old either, but she is at a point in her life where we really need to start taking care of her from the inside out, especially because most of her life she's just been eating a whole lot of sweets. Now I want to show you also Katie, because some of you have probably noticed at this point, this is big Katie who you've met before. She was a wild burro. This is her tattoo here. She's still shedding some of her winter coat. Anyway, Katie's about the same age, big Katie's about the same age, in her early 20s. If you look on this side, she also has a broken crest. Now, Katie has been here for over a year. She came with her companion, Ozzy, who you guys will remember I said passed away just this spring, and that's how we ended up with little Katie, because I was looking for a companion. But she was overweight when she got here and still is. You can see some fat pads here and then some fat pads back on her hips. But she's definitely lost weight since being here. But again, this is over a year of just managing diet and exercise, and still it just takes a really, really long time to rehab donkeys once they've gained that much weight. And you'll remember that Katie came to live with us, Katie and Ozzy, the one that passed away, came to live with us because one of their caregivers passed away, and the other one was selling everything and wanting to travel, and we were saying that we were interested in adopting a donkey, and so it was kind of perfect timing that everything lined up, and they've been here since then. Okay, problem number 2, her feet. So I wanted you guys to see that clip of her walking at the camera. You can tell she's uncomfortable when she moves. She's actually walking a lot better than when she got here. But if we can get a close-up of her feet, you can see donkeys really should be pretty upright, especially compared to horses. Her feet are starting to grow at really weird angles. And this is actually after she's already been trimmed. We trimmed her 2 days after she arrived, so about 2 weeks ago, and she's moving much, much better. I'll post some before and after, or some before pictures here, so you can really see how much we've already cut off. But she needs about 2 more corrective trims, we hope, to really straighten her out. It could take longer than that. All right, my cameraman ditched me, so we're kind of winging it now. Now, donkeys should really be kept, just like horses, on a regular trim schedule, depending on how you keep them. What I mean by that is some people have something called a track system or a paddock paradise for their equines, where their horses and donkeys are moving all day long to forage for food, to find water, or water's just been strategically placed for them. And that's actually what we're finding out is the best way to really keep them. But most of us, a lot of us, are keeping them just in traditional enclosures, like a dry lot in their case, where I have them that they can't access grass unless I turn them out and things like that, so I can really regulate how much sugar's in their diet. But what I mean is when people are on, or when people keep their equines on a track system, their feet are generally in better shape too, because they're moving a lot more like they would do if they were wild. So if you think about wild horses, wild burros, Katie used to be one, farriers don't go out and trim them in the wild, but because they're moving across all kinds of terrain to forage and find water, their feet stay in relatively good condition. Now, when we stick them in traditional enclosures, that's where there's not as much wear and tear on their feet, and we have to really make sure that we keep them trimmed back. So a lot of times, if people aren't familiar with horses or donkeys, they sort of forget to do that, or they don't make it a priority, and it actually can create a lot of issues in their feet, their legs, and their body. It just moves all the way up. It puts a lot of stress on their ligaments, especially in little Katie's situation where she was rocked way back on her heels, essentially. There's ligaments that run all down the back of their legs, and it really strains them and can create long-term issues, but it's also quite painful for them too. How often do you trim horses and donkeys? Mine are on a 6 to 8 week trim schedule. year round for the most part. It can depend on what kind of a climate you're in. Sometimes their feet don't grow as fast in the winter, but again, it's something that you're just going to want to monitor and make sure you're staying on top of. I think it's my farrier or maybe even a trainer that I know that says no hoof, no horse. And so I think that's the same thing here, no hoof, no donkey. And please remember that you're talking to somebody that had to humanely euthanize Katie's companion of almost 20 years, big Katie's companion, just this past spring. And the vet basically told me that because he had foundered so often throughout his life, that his coffin bones, which are the bones in their hooves, had basically degenerated over time, and they essentially develop what's similar to like a type 2 diabetes in humans, as I've already mentioned. And just like in people, it causes feet problems, it causes hoof problems in donkeys and horses. So I had to make a really hard, horrible decision because he couldn't walk anymore. And so when little Katie arrived, actually, this is something I don't think I've mentioned, she was laying down all the time. I would say she was laying down probably more than she was up on her feet. And the first couple of days, I was really scared that she might have bone changes because of the level of obesity that she's at and for the amount of time that she's been there. Thankfully, I don't think that that's the case at this point. We're gonna get her through a couple of corrective trims, but because of how well she stands and because of how well she's responded just after the first trim, we really think that she just needs that therapeutic corrective trim to really be comfortable. But it might be something that we do in the future, get some x-rays on her just to make sure that there are no bone changes at this point. And the last thing I'll say about that is, again, the coffin bones that can degenerate as a side effect, or is basically what they're standing on. So when those bones go away, the long years, when those bones are no longer there, they have nothing that they can comfortably walk on. It's really painful. They limp quite a bit. And so when she first arrived, seeing how severely she was limping and seeing how much she was laying down, it's definitely something that we're keeping a close eye on. This is her. This is little Katie. We're super excited she's here. I'm so excited you're here to learn about her because I think teaching about some of our farm animals can really help bring awareness to how people can better care for them. The good news again is since she's had her first corrective trim, she's moving a lot better. She's on her feet a lot more. You can still see she has some discomfort when she's walking around, but it's not as significant as it was. And I'm hopeful that through working with a farrier that we'll be able to get her comfortable walking, standing, and doing all the things that a donkey naturally would like to do more of. She's settled in beautifully, just like she's known us her whole life. Her and Katie were instant sisters and best friends. Well, we gave them a couple of days to really get to know each other, but now this is pretty much them all the time. They're fairly inseparable, which I love to see. It's very common in a herd animal. You'll see this in horses too. But every donkey, every horse is different and they don't all get along. So this is really exciting to see that they have hit it off and become buddies right away. Donkeys are very social, very intelligent animals, and I'm glad that they have each other to really share this space with. I'm like slowly inching out of the frame here. It's kind of a match made in heaven. Now I want you to like and subscribe while you're here so that you can follow her progress and this one's progress. We're still doing the diet and exercise thing with her. There are 2 more donkeys in my life now that you guys have not met yet. One of them I moved recently to the nonprofit ranch that I work at. The other one I'm going to be picking up actually in a couple of days. And so I actually really want to show you him because he's another mini. He's coming from a fairly serious neglect situation. And I think that you'll be really interested to see what he looks like when he gets here and how he recovers. So I'm excited to share his story with you. Like I always say, there's never a dull moment around here. Even being a couple of days from 9 months pregnant, you guys, this is just what we do. All right, I'll see you next time. I'm like trying to get this episode started, and this one, Guilty Party, loves cardboard boxes and paper. So I set up my tripod, walked away to go get something. I went to get fly spray to put some fly spray on them, and I came back and she had eaten my whole script. You know how people say the dog ate my homework? Well, the donkey ate my script. Oh my goodness, girls. I needed that. Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, and again. The donkey ate my script. Oh, no.